What's up, guys? Welcome back to From the Logo. Colton, you're pretty excited about the Blazers right now, right? What are some of the top headlines coming out? We've missed the last few weeks, so let's hear it.
We're off hiatus, live and in person. We're back, better than ever. It's preseason, right around the corner. Media day just happened. There's a lot to actually talk about. The off season is over. And guess what? Guess what, Blazer fans? News happens right out the bat. Shaedon Sharpe, injured, out 4 to 6 weeks. We love that. Great start to the season.
Glass bones and paper skin.
We love
the Portland Trailblazers story.
Injuries to core players here, as you can tell. So right off the bat, we got to do silver linings because that's what we try to do on this podcast, and I think that allows the Blazers to do something that we all want. Showcase one Anthony Simons, start Scoot Henderson, and with no worries about not starting Scoot here. Start Scoot, start Ant, both of them. Let Ant showcase his talents scoring the basketball for 4 to 6 weeks.
Are you talking about just preseason? Because 4 to 6 weeks is probably... I guess that will be the start of the season as well, right?
It'll be the start of the season, and if you hit the 6 weeks mark, you're just letting him get those numbers up, make it look good, and ball out, basically, is what I'm saying. You hope that Ant doesn't get hurt week one, game one as well, like last season. And just hope that they can play well together and at least get some positive word of mouth going moving forward, along with the rest of the expected starting lineup of Denny Adbia,
the Blazers' best player, right?
Grant,
right, Chauncey?
Not according to Chauncey, and Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton. So we'll see how that goes.
You know, I actually have my doubts about the Chauncey Billups Denny Adbia question. He may have been onto something there in terms of having a guy who's probably going to come in and be fairly effective right off the bat. I think that's probably what he meant. He probably did say something somewhat along those lines, and it got taken out of context.
He has pro experience.
Yeah, exactly.
He has pro experience, which that's not everybody on the Blazers roster coming into the season.
He's a professional level NBA player that's not DeAndre Ayton, so
already coming in with the heat.
Riley's starting off swinging at Ayton. Riley's Ayton's biggest fan. Well, all I'm saying is this. I'm excited for the games to actually start.
It's nice we'll be able to watch them.
It's nice we'll be able to watch
without
them.
being a criminal.
Yeah, and we'll see how it works. I know the preseason, I don't know how the coverage is going to be for the preseason. There might still be some high seas action, if you will, in the preseason. And I know that after January 1st, the games will be even easier to watch. I know that there's still some contract stuff that has to be figured out as it goes. But
is there? It's not starting on K2 or whatever.
I can't remember exactly. So there's some channel stuff that has to be hashed out. But it is all starting this season right off the bat. It's just I think it's channel 14 or something off the bat, and then it moves to channel 2. You shouldn't have to worry about it. I think it's YouTube TV or something.
I feel like Comcast isn't going to want to give them up easily without a fight.
Yeah.
They're like the bitter ex. It's not going to give them.
Comcast is my worst enemy. So, long story short, I'm excited.
It's better than Ziply. Count yourself grateful to be able to pay for Comcast service.
Ziply's, believe it or not. And we don't believe in Ziply internet around here.
Yeah, we haven't had internet for a month now with Ziply.
Why do you think we've been on hiatus?
Yeah. Shout out Ziply if you're watching. Please give us service back. We'd really appreciate it.
Well, so there was some interesting chatter over the summer about Scoot. And that kind of bled into some of the press conferences leading up to the training camp and coming in. The first question that was asked of Scoot was something along the lines of, "What was your the biggest thing that you learned from your rookie season?" And Riley, Why don't you go ahead and answer what Scoot said?
In non-mime form.
Yeah, in non-mind form.
He had something to say about how he just really enjoyed all the excellent meals that he was able to have in Portland and on the road with his teammates, which, shout out for team bonding. That's awesome. I can't really blame the guy in a way. Like, considering how terrible that season was, if you're going to have anything positive to say, I guess you at least have to, try to have some fun during the pain. But
yeah, especially dealing with all those injuries. The man's got to rehab. The man's got to heal. Food's the way you heal.
just looking for any positive, any silver lining out of that season. If I was on the team, I mean, I don't know that I'd have any positive thing to say about the season, but
I mean, I don't even know. I think it was more of almost like just a joke that didn't hit right. He was trying to just like say it, and then he realized, all right. Because if you listen to the rest of the answers, he was like locked in and had really good answers. So he said that one, and then the temperature of the room was like, don't say that after the season you had. And then he was like, oh, okay, I'll give really good answers. Because again, if you go back and look at the end of the season that he had great end of the season, in my opinion, especially from where he started, which was awful, right? No sugarcoating it. But, you know, not a great answer right off the bat. But then if you listen to the rest of them, they were all good answers, in my opinion. So I think that one kind of got picked up by the aggregators.
What do you happen to remember any of the other questions?
No, I mean, but they're like stereotypical like athlete answers of like working out, and
110%.
Yeah,
Put it in the effort.
And he was
Trying to
in
get
the
better.
gym. Like he had
Focus on
multiple
the right things.
workout videos. You know, like you could see it.
Trying to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
Trying to help my teammates get better.
yeah.
Left hand, please get the left hand workouts going. I just want to see some progress finishing with the left. Keep working on the jumper. Keep working on the defense.
And try to do something this season that's more exciting than just having a good dinner.
Yeah, it depends on the injuries, I suppose. Those, like I said, I mean, the man's got a rehab last year.
Yeah.
And food is how you recover, right? I mean, he's clear, like you've said many times in this podcast, the man lives in the gym. There's no doubt
He
about
does.
that.
He
So
does.
it's not like that's any sign of him being,
Right.
it's not like Zion saying that.
Or Raymond Felton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not back to Ray and Mound
Yeah.
fail
Yeah,
attempt.
if one of those guys is saying stuff about food, then it's a little
Yeah.
different. But I mean,
Exactly.
Scoot's
The guy,
shredded
he's
beyond,
jacked.
beyond the
Exactly.
He's
He
probably
was out
eating
of
high
shape.
protein meals. Let's be real.
Exactly.
He's getting his protein in. Don't
Oh,
worry
yeah.
about
Yeah,
it.
no, I have no questions about him on that level. It's just
Work ethic.
a little bit funny that's the best thing
Right.
that one of our star players had to say about last season, and he's not wrong.
I think it was a joke, but yeah, when it was like that, and you start off the press conference like that, like if it was like somebody like established, like if it was like Dame, and he said that, everyone would have just
Yeah.
laughed it off.
Yeah,
but
for real.
when he had a rough year, even if he would have like been a high like rookie of the year candidate, everyone probably would have laughed it off. But because it was a struggle for most of the year, everyone was like, no, come on, man. So,
Yeah, I guess people probably just wanted him to kind of like
say, I was working hard.
take
the
his
whole
lumps
time.
a little bit,
Yeah.
just like admit that it was a really tough season, that he didn't perform
Yeah.
how he wanted to perform. I mean, that's how the Blazer fans are feeling, is that it was disappointing, and so I don't know, maybe the joke just wasn't the right tone, but
Yeah.
whatever, no big deal.
I know Riley doesn't want to go down this path, but what was the best Scoot moment of the season in your guys' opinion? I would say it was probably the game that
I was
we
gonna
went
say,
to.
I think you
where-
guys saw it in
What he scored
person.
about 30 points, hit like 6 or 7 threes, and was diming up people, and then got taken out in the fourth quarter and didn't really get to keep going. But he could have that could have been like a 40-point night.
It was a fun time. The game against Dame Time was a highlight for me. The Blazers won that game. I think that was probably the best game of the season for Blazer fans. He was in the first half.
That's right.
He was outplaying Damian Lillard
That's
easily. It wasn't a contest, in my opinion. Like he was outplaying Dame, and he was taking it personal, really. And like that's what I'm saying. You could see the flashes at times last season, and I thought he closed out the season strong. So their hope is there. But especially early in the season now with Sharp out, you're gonna look for those signs of hope, and it's a lot of it's again gonna fall on Scoot and like guys like Denny. And then here's a guy I want to talk to you guys about early on, especially in the preseason. The Don
I was
man,
gonna I was gonna say maybe the best thing that we talked a lot about last year how much we wanted to see chemistry between Scoot Henderson and DeAndre Ayton. I remember we were all very excited about like lob city, lob threat, pick and roll, all that kind of stuff, and it just didn't really happen throughout the season. They didn't get a lot of time together, didn't get a lot of like big plays together. I'm hoping to see that with Scoot and Klingon to start this season. I've already seen a few little clips here and there of lob passes to Klingon and pick and rolls and stuff, but if those two can start to develop some chemistry, especially early on, we're beating a dead horse here, but like chemistry between Scoot, Klingon, Denny, and Shaden when he comes back, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that we care about seeing this season, right? It's like everything else is just, the rest of it is either just to try to demonstrate guys' value, to try to get better trade value for them, or either that or you're like trying to win games, and we should not be trying to win games.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to ask you guys a serious question, because this is not even something that I've considered and not something that I ever really even have done up to this point, because I always try to be like the positive guy. At what point, let's say Shaden comes back, gets hurt after another 5 games of playing and misses more time, or Scoot gets hurt again or looks like a bust again after only a second season. At what point do you pivot and then listen to every Blazer fan out there on the YouTube comments and go to the Anthony Simons timeline and just hunt and just go?
I don't think you ever go to the Anthony.
Don't ever do it.
You go to the Cooper Flag timeline if the Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp era doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah, I just can't imagine a situation where it would work to go to the Anthony timeline for a few reasons. One, I just don't think Anthony can be that guy. Like, you can't build a timeline around Anthony Simons. So for the reasons we've talked about, he can't really bring the ball up the floor. He can't really be the primary decision maker on a team. And even on teams where the best player isn't the guard, a lot of times they're at least a primary decision maker. And I just don't trust him to be that role.
I think that's something he could potentially develop. I think the defense is the bigger problem for Anthony Simons. Like, I don't know. That's something that decision making and ball security and stuff like that, a lot of that sometimes can come with experience. He already has quite a bit of experience, but that stuff is a concern. But I think the far bigger concern is he's like even worse than Damian Lillard on defense, and that was obviously Damian's big flaw in Portland.
Here's a trigger warning for Blazer fans. Here's a great team that Anthony Simons would fit on. The Lakers. I know, Jeremy Grant was the team that we thought maybe might go to the Lakers. Didn't happen. But Anthony would fit really well next to like LeBron being the guy that brings the ball
just be hoping for picks back?
Those picks that they wouldn't give up for Jeremy Grant.
Are they just Lakers first round?
Yeah, when LeBron's done and Anthony
if he's ever going to be done.
Well, then Bronny's the guy they build around, right? Anthony Davis will be injury prone and old.
He already is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Anthony Simons is not, we just talked about, not the guy you build around probably as the core guy. They could probably rebuild as they do, but they still have times when they're down as they were before LeBron went there, and they haven't really ever been, other than that 1 year, they haven't been a top seed since then, right? Even with LeBron. So I'm just saying, you look for the teams that he would fit on that might do it, and LeBron would be the primary ball handler in this case, and they need a shooter bad.
They've needed 3-point shooting basically since he's come to the team.
And who would be a perfect fit next to LeBron? That they have good defenders, Anthony Davis.
Not having to be the primary decision maker, primary ball handler would be a great situation for him. That's most of the teams that we talk about as good landing places for Anthony, or places where he could go be more of a shooter, more of a scorer kind of specialist instead of.
How do you guys think he would handle the LA spotlight? That is a big transition.
Third banana shooter guy, whatever.
Yeah,
It's still a lot like, when he wins, he's going to be the hero, but when he misses big shots, it's going to be. Obviously, he's a pro, but I'm just wondering what you guys envision that looking like with him handling the pressure pretty well.
Anthony Davis can be a scapegoat. The coach is always going to be a scapegoat with JJ Redick.
Yeah, that's
like,
for sure.
Yeah, he would be a scapegoat, but
They just always are in LA. There's a lot of pressure for Lakers
Right.
players.
yeah, I mean, you're going to have to be that wherever you go. I mean, like, he's going to have to go wherever he's traded. I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't hate going to play with LeBron, right?
Yeah, that'd be a good opportunity for him.
Dude, I'm just trying to find a situation of a team that would trade for him, because we say he's a lights out scorer and he's a dunk champion, right? Like, those are good things to build on, but then you say, well, he's one of the worst defenders in the league. He's not that great of a passer. Who's going to trade value for him? Well, a team that needs the shooting and the scoring, but is good in other places, and that's a team like the Lakers, right?
And very much in win now mode too,
Yeah.
is the other piece of it, because Anthony, he's still young, but he's not like 18, 19, he's getting toward his prime right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so a team that needs to inject scoring right now. I mean, he'd come onto that team as a young guy for sure, but he's still a young guy that's NBA ready, it would appear. That could be a good situation for them and for him. And then, of course, there's, like, we've talked for years about him going back to Orlando.
Yeah. But, I mean, that one, it's like, it's so obvious, why hasn't it happened yet?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think of, like, another, like, out-of-the-blue thing, because Orlando would be a great fit, and there would probably be more young talent there, but it's like, why hasn't that happened?
Back to LA too. Redick is his coach. That'd be interesting. A 3-point specialist. Maybe kind of could teach him how to play defense at for a guy who's not necessarily the most physically gifted as a defender. Even though there's really no reason Anthony shouldn't be a better defender.
But it's never really made a lot of sense with his athleticism, and he's got long arms and stuff too. Like,
did you watch the Fan Fest game?
I didn't get a chance to see
Denny
that.
was the MVP, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw his name.
Fans were loving it. Also,
Didn't get to see any highlights or anything though.
no.
I wonder what he did. Like, I wonder if he was just kind of continued what he looked like last year with kind of a really 3-level scorer with defense and athleticism.
I'm definitely excited to see Denny. Can't wait for that preseason game on Friday, just to see kind of how he plays the transition game, really, to see if there's some pace that he brings. Because I was seeing that in both the highlights, but also like analyzing his game outside of the highlights just briefly in the clips that I saw. He can bring the ball like with pace. They need that. They need to because the times when they can't manufacture points and they go on those like lulls, that's when they start getting blown out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can manufacture pace as a wing, that creates opportunities.
More guys pushing the ball up the court too, take some of that pressure off of Anthony Simons that we were talking about. Allow him to go spot up and do what he does best, which is
100%.
play the shooting game rather than trying to be the facilitator.
100%.
it does beg the difficult question with this season though, which is, do we want to be getting blown out? I mean, is that?
I don't think we want to be getting blown out. Like,
just competitive games where the goal isn't to be 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I really don't feel like that's very good for anybody. Like last year, we clearly kind of saw what that looks like when you just get blown out by 60 or whatever and build no team. It's just like, I feel like you want to be competitive at least.
Yeah, and I think, and it's interesting, we saw with the Atlanta Hawks, they weren't at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, they really jumped the odds.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't probably want to be as good as the Atlanta Hawks were, but if you're like the 7th worst team, it's not the end of the world. You still have a solid shot at Cooper Flag. I still would want to give us the best chance just because there's the guys in this year's draft. There's like, I know that the experts can be wrong, but basically every expert right now is saying that the top like 6 or 7 in this year's class are all like the most talented like group as a whole, not just this one guy that they've seen in like as a group, not just one guy.
Yeah.
In a while. So it's
like any of those 6 or 7 would be the top pick in
as
this
a
last
group.
draft.
Yeah, that's different than saying this one guy, right? So you want to put yourself in position to at least be able to snag a guy. And that's why I said before, not only Cooper Flagg, but Ace Bailey. Those guys are both big, talented wings. If you can get one of those two guys, your starting lineup is really set moving forward.
That Spanish dude, too.
Oh, yeah.
Hugo Gonzalez.
Hugo, and then
there's like 5
Shahor, and he's a guard.
Traore.
Yeah. He's a guard, but he's huge, and like there's
Can
just
you look
there's a
up
lot of talent.
the mock draft? real quick?
Yeah, we can. Oh.
Have you looked at any of those guys very much?
Just the top 2. Just like
Bailey. Yeah.
Bailey.
Yeah, I heard you talking a little bit about Cooper the other day.
Bailey
Our dad
is
has never
tantalizing.
heard of Cooper
Yeah,
Flagg.
he's not really. Dylan Harper, that guy
He's
too.
6'5".
I think his player
right?
comp is like James Harden or something crazy.
Yeah, he's good.
Ace Bailey, T-Mac, crazy.
Yeah, VJ
Yeah.
Edgecombe.
Him and
Everyone is saying he could be the number 1 pick over Flagg.
him and DeAndre Ayton had great chemistry
In
for the Bahamas too.
And he was going off
Yeah.
in oh yeah.
Who
So
else
VJ
is
Edgecombe,
Man, I've never even heard of that.
Hugo, like you were saying, he's 6'6". I don't know. These are all like foreign players.
Yeah, there's a bunch. But yeah, it's a deep class potentially.
Deep class.
Obviously,
a
you
lot of guys
never
with
know,
size. Yeah, and this is going to shake out a little bit differently, but I'm talking about the top 5 to 6, down to VJ Edgecombe at least. Like, I've heard people talk about VJ Edgecombe himself, like he's above or with Ace Bailey and Cooper Flagg, and he's right now at like 5th on this mock. So it's like
I remember reading about Dylan Harper too, and they said he'd be number 1 in like any draft other than this one in Wimby.
yeah. So I'm just saying, just put yourself in position, like to answer your question, Riley. Yes, you don't want to get blown out by a ton of points, but man, you want to get that wing.
But maybe a little bit.
That's a tough thing.
I
It's
think-
a tough problem.
I think Denny is like probably the best like secondary tier wing we've had since like Batum level guy.
So we need to sit him.
I know Colton disagrees with this, but every time we get to these discussions, I just can't help but feel like they need to fix the way that the draft spots are determined. I just hate the tanking thing so much. I feel like it sort of ruins the NBA.
How do they fix it?
I don't know. I just feel like they need to look at it, maybe change the odds a little bit. Maybe
They tried already.
Yeah, maybe get maybe
Flatten it.
more. Maybe
Yeah,
more.
they need to flatten it more.
I just feel like they need to figure out a way to take maybe English Premier League system. What is that?
Relegate?
Yeah, relegate and promote something like that. It sucks being a Blazer fan where you're looking at this season like, man, do we even want to be competitive? Like that's a terrible thing to have part of your sport. Like a fan, you know.
Okay, so
have your
let
fan
me
base.
ask you guys this. So, this is a famous like proposition by Bill Simmons, the wheel. So every 30 years, your team rotates every draft slot. So you pick 1 through 30 years, and you just take that pick 1 through 30 you just rotate on through.
I like that. I mean, I like that idea. I think better than what we have right now. It would at least.
But then the Victor Wembanyama's coming up, and he sees that the Blazers picked number 1 this year, and he's in
he
France,
waits.
and he's like,
Yeah.
the Knicks are next year. Nah, I'm gonna wait
Yeah,
one more year.
That could be a problem. I mean, I don't hate the idea of just like complete flat odds for every team in the league too.
I could
For
see
every team in the league.
I could see. Yeah,
I
I
hate
mean,
that.
I don't honestly.
That's
I don't
terrible.
hate it either. But I could see finding a middle ground where maybe just every team that doesn't make the playoffs has flat odds, and then like all the teams that do. Maybe you could even do all the teams that don't make the playoffs have flat odds, and all the teams that do make the playoffs have a different flat odds. So it doesn't matter whether you're 1st through 8th or 9th through.
You're just gonna see
16.
such unbalanced basketball if that happens, where then it won't matter if teams are trying their hardest. Then you're going to see blowouts the other way where it's uncompetitive. Teams can be trying their hardest, and you're going to have the number 1 draft pick land on the Golden State Warrior dynasty team.
No,
And then
because
it won't
I'm saying that if you're in the playoffs, you have much lower odds than if you're out of the playoffs.
I know, but I'm saying when you have a team of young established stars that are growing, and everyone has flat odds, and they barely miss the playoffs.
Yeah,
And then they all have flat odds.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay taking that chance. I
don't
think
really
it's,
know
it's
what the
not
answer
very
is,
likely
but
that it would happen.
this is not a great system in my opinion. It's just I don't like not being competitive.
I don't like
I mean,
guys.
for years, it's making me like barely even a Blazers fan at this point. It's like been, 2 years of just like they're not even trying. Why should I bother to tune in? That's rough.
I mean-
that's like ruin. That's like turning fans off. I like watching other teams a lot more. The more competitive teams.
I mean, so you have to look at like development, and then when you actually build the team, it's like you think about it this way. When you looked at Roy and Aldridge and Odin, and then you're hyped about when you started to see the chemistry and coming together, and when they win 11 games in a row in like 1 month, you're like, oh, finally, this is coming together.
But you didn't watch like the 3 years before that. This is part of the problem.
I'm saying when you
Maybe
finally
like
get
4 or 5
when you
years.
get the established cornerstones, that's why we're dying to see the established cornerstone. And if you have the pieces, once you get the one piece and then you get the 2 piece, and then you're like,
That's
all right.
not the problem here, though. The problem is the years before of trying to lose
The problem-
to get those pieces.
So the problem with last year is we didn't even get to see if we have a piece, and that's what it felt like. It was a wasted year for all of us. We didn't even get to see it.
But it became so much easier to just go ahead and let the year be wasted, knowing that there was an incentive to do so. It
Right.
made it easier.
And it's crazy that we're like already going into this year like, let's not try to be too competitive here.
let's
we gotta
waste another one.
Yeah, we gotta. That's an entire year of not only our lives, but all these young kids' lives too. That they're asking them to not be competitive and not even try to win games. It just feels like, man, what are we fans of this team for?
Yeah.
I mean, a year is a long time. 3 years is like, that's like what, like a 12th of your life, or no, like a 20, 40,
20, 30,
yeah,
20 or 30.
25-ish part of your life. Like,
So you ask yourself this, and then you say, how do Pistons fans feel right now?
Because that's what they've
They
been
are
dealing with
fans,
for it's
man.
like a lifetime.
Or like
Some of the
Kings
pieces.
fans, when they just
Yeah.
did not ever make the playoffs for like 15 years straight. Like this isn't too crazy compared to that. I mean, the Blazers have been one of the teams that doesn't have these periods very often. Like, yes, it sucks when it happens, but I mean,
it just goes to show how brutal it is, though. How that system does suck once you get into a low spot like that, and how hard it is to get out, and how you have to basically try to not be competitive for several years.
it does suck.
I
but-
kind of imagine it's probably completely destroyed the Blazers fan base. This and the Comcast thing, like
Yeah.
their ratings and their attendance is probably just abysmal compared to what it was through the Damian Lillard years and
Yeah.
before.
I would say the Comcast thing definitely plays a huge part in it, and when you can't see the team and you can't like actually connect with any of it. But I mean, look at it this way, and this is what I try to compare it to. Like the Thunder of 2 years ago, they were playing guys. They had like 17 players on the roster, and like only one of them was on the team still, and that's SGA.
Mhm.
And now look at them, and then they're the 1 seed. Right? I mean, how many people were going to Thunder games then? How many people were saying they hated watching them then? And now they're
But do
the
we
1
want
seed.
to reward
That's
that?
what I was gonna say. That's to me that honestly just proves our point that now the best team in the league is a team that didn't try for several years. Like that's not what we should want as NBA
it doesn't
fans.
feel like you're rewarding the right thing. Like
Yeah, you're rewarding-
I mean, but
Poor
he
play.
made the move. The GM made the moves and made the trades to get the picks, right? And yes, I get what you're saying.
And
but
that
then
did like super, sped up the rebuild
Supercharged it,
process
yeah.
a lot. Like it could have been a lot uglier. It could have been a Pistons scenario if they wouldn't have got that haul for Paul George and Russell Westbrook.
So it wasn't like, yeah, they made a tough decision, which the Blazers also had to make a tough decision. They just didn't get to make multiple tough decisions with multiple star players, kneel because you were trading away all your first round picks. And that goes to show why you can't just trade your first rounders away for mid-tier role players. You have to save up and get star players, because then if it doesn't work out, you can then flip them for assets. This is all comes down to asset management. Why you can't just keep kicking the can down the road, because then this is what happens. Then you have one player in Damian Lillard and not all the assets to just instantly rebuild like what the Thunder did. That's what happens. Because the Thunder were able to just, also make some shrewd moves, and people made some bad decisions, trading Russell Westbrook for all those
and Paul
and
George,
like
for
that.
that matter.
Yeah,
The Clippers didn't really get what the trading SGA for Paul George
And
is wild
all
in
picks.
retrospect.
Yeah, I mean, that was a terrible decision, right? It's hindsight, but
That's
why
why I
you
could
gotta
have told
make-
you back then too.
right? I mean, no one knew SGA was going to be that good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
crazy,
wouldn't
his
have-
ascension.
I wouldn't have traded much for Paul George at that point in time.
My point being, is still, you do get rewarded for making good decisions still. I get what you guys are saying about the basketball, the draft pick side of it. But the whole point is...
Yeah, it's mainly the tanking thing. If they can figure out some way to take tanking out of the NBA, I think... Because I do get your point about, you want, is it
Parody.
parity or parody? Yeah.
Parity.
You want parity in the league, and they've done a really great job of that. There's probably 5 to 8 teams that could legitimately win it all next year. I mean, I know
the last 6 years, it's been a
I
new
know.
team that's won every single year.
Exactly. I know the Celtics are kind of going in as heavy favorites to repeat, but I think it's hard to repeat in the NBA, as evidenced by that it's been a new team every year. So I think they've done a good job of that, getting the teams really balanced, and also sort of a lot of the smaller markets becoming competitive.
Yes.
And teams building through the draft and stuff like that. You want all of that stuff, and second round picks becoming the best player in the league and that sort of stuff, and foreign players, and they've done a great job with a lot of that. The cancer in the league right now, in my opinion, is the tanking stuff. I just think it's a terrible position to put your team in and your fans to want your team to not even be competitive for a whole season.
Yeah.
It may be more if halfway through the season you're it's not working out. Okay, let's
Going
let's
into the
pull plug.
season,
Yeah, and going into 2 to 3 seasons in a
it's
row.
rough.
It's
Yeah.
not a good thing for fan base.
I can agree with that part of it. And unfortunately, that's true in every sport. Even in the NFL, teams do that. And
It's less so though because the players are less impactful for the teams.
yeah.
With NBA, a single player can change an entire
And
franchise.
that's why.
There's no
Yeah.
Cooper Flag. in
Well,
the
that's
NFL
No
draft.
Victor when
Yeah.
Well, when Peyton, Arch Manning comes
Yeah.
in, teams are going to do that.
But he's not. Yeah, to some degree, I guess. But I don't think it's gonna be.
It's not quite as
You're not-
prevalent.
I don't know, man.
Maybe to a degree, but still, I just don't think he has the capability of changing an entire franchise so quick, and so the teams won't be quite as motivated to.
There's a 60% chance he'll be CTE'd in the first 3 games. So
Could be.
you
That could be
can't
true.
put too much on one guy in the
yeah,
NFL.
I get your guys' point, and it's definitely worse in the years where there's a guy like Cooper Flag or Victor Wembanyama.
At least this year there are 7 guys we were talking
That's
about.
my
so-
point. So there's at least something at the end of the tunnel with excitement to be had, which I get it when you don't get that. But let's flash forward. Let's do a time travel video to the end of the year where the Blazers get the number 1 pick and Cooper Flag's sitting there. And then we're like, okay, well, that sucked, but could be worth it now. And then
I hope it happens. I mean,
there you go.
Given the reality of where the league is, I hope the Blazers can bomb all season and we get Cooper Flag. I really do. But
It would
I
be
just
cooler
don't
if
think
they
that
could
should
have
be
been.
the way that the
It'd
league
be a lot
is set
cooler
up.
if they could have tried to win some games in the last 3 years, and that still happens rather than.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
being
What
a
if they
complete
lose in the play-in game and then get a 1% chance and get them? I mean, that would be the coolest option out there, but unlikely.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, I think those odds should be
Yeah,
very different.
that's exactly what.
If you're the ninth, if you're the ninth
should
best team in
reward
the
competitive
West, you
teams,
should
not-
still have a chance to go out and get Cooper Flag.
That's the only thing is they could do something where it's oh, there's a a tournament where the team that does the best gets the highest odds, but then are players going to play harder for a higher draft pick that has a chance to replace them? Like, probably not. So there's like no great solution to it. If you have flat odds like you guys are saying, the teams that's already better are going to be better. You're going to lose that parity that you're talking about. So
I just don't know if I totally agree that would happen. I don't know that would actually
interesting
happen.
to try to see what would happen with something like that, and then also like relegation. I think like if you're the Pistons, do you deserve to be in the NBA at this point?
That could be true.
That
I can agree with.
Here's kind of my point: is that like the 12th, 11th best team in the West and the 15th best team in the West. You really think that those two teams are so different in terms of quality that the 15th team should totally get the number 1 pick and the 12th team should not have a very good chance to get the pick?
That's not what
I'm saying. I don't think there's a very big difference between those two teams.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying having the same odds of the team that has 2 near all-stars or an all-star on their team and then 2 good supporting cast players, like a team like the Rockets or something like that that's going to be pretty good this year, versus a team that has nothing, like whatever the Pistons are going to be or something like that. Whatever the example may be, having the exact same odds, and then they have the exact. I just don't think it.
Just because you don't think they're going to make the playoffs, you mean?
No, I'm just saying having the same odds, like a team's obviously going to be 20 games better than the other one for a reason, not because they're exactly the same talent base. I'm not saying the team that's the 13th in the West is the same as the 15th. I'm saying the team that's 20 games better is obviously way better for a reason.
What would be like best case scenario for everything is if the player quality just continued to rise. So like this sort of thing happened more often where there was like 15 studs in every draft, and
that's true.
Or it wasn't so much disparity between like the number 1 pick and the number whatever pick, and like maybe that'll continue to happen as these kids just get better and better and more access to training and
international.
All that stuff. Yeah, and the international guys start to come in. Like that could change some stuff too. Like look at Jokic. What was he, 41st pick overall or something like that, and best player in the league. So like that sort of thing can happen too. And a lot of times the number 1 player isn't the best player in the league. There just is a way higher chance, and then you got a guy like Wembanyama that comes in
and he was obvious going in, and it's obvious going forward. So yeah, I agree. This turned into a tanking podcast episode, but
what else is there to talk about?
Prudent. Well, that's prudent.
We got another one ahead of us, guys.
Shaden tore his shoulder, and we're gonna try to lose as many games as they can this year.
Next week, after the game or the games, we can make it a Chauncey Billups episode when I complain about the rotation that I'm gonna see. So I hope you're ready for that.
Hopefully we'll have legitimate internet in the coming weeks so we can do this a little bit more often.
Yeah.
Come on, Ziply, help us out with that, please.
Ziply's believe
at
it or not.
Ziply. At least your wife has been holding them accountable on Twitter.
I think it might have finally done
I
something.
think that's the one thing that actually helped us. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. We enjoyed being back. We'll try to be back soon. Bye.
Bye.